Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the podcast. We will just jump right into these topics today, okay? So let's get started. So, the first topic that I want to jump into is, of course, the new that's what's been making news for the past 2 days, is the Tyree Nichols case. So, his murderers basically have been found not guilty, and there've been some, people have their opinions about that, and it's not so good. Not every I haven't seen many comments where people are like, yeah, this is okay, that no one thinks they should have been found not guilty. Like, no one that I've, um, no comments that I've seen, nothing. So let's get into it, okay? This article that I'm going to get into is from the Washington Post, and they kind of gave a little bit of like background and told what happened. So the article from the Washington Post is former Memphis police officers found not guilty in the killing of Tyree Nichols. So, and this is from the article, okay? Because I took some notes from the article. It says the three former Memphis police officer, it was Demetrius Haley, Tadarius Bean, Justin Smith, and Justin Smith Jr., were found not guilty of second-degree murder and aggravated assault and kidnapping in the 2023 beating death of Tyree Nichols, a 29-year-old FedEx worker, despite being convicted of several federal charges related to the incident. So they were convicted in federal court before, and now this is their state trial. It says the state jury deliberated for over 8 hours after hearing testimonies that delved into the minute after police pulled over Nichols for a traffic stop when the officer repeatedly hit and kicked him. So, from the way the story went, he was going home, okay, and he was he was trying to, I guess, beat the red light at a traffic stop, and I guess they kind of noticed, and he got pulled over from this. And once he got pulled over, I guess this is where stuff started happening. I guess he tried to run away from the police, which a lot of people do. Who knows why or what the reasoning was. A lot of people, they're scared of the police, so they'll take off, So he took off. They chased, so, and of course, if you're the police, you're going to get mad and angry and upset that now you have to chase this person, that you're pulling over. So they chase, and, things probably got really heated. They were back and forth, and there was a beat down basically, and there's a video, so everybody have seen this video, and you could see them beating him. Even I've seen, a clip. I haven't seen the full video, but I've seen clips of the video online of them, beating him. And of course, they kicked him and hit him, and this was repeatedly. You could see them doing this. So that's the whole thing. So the verdict is a blow for police reform advocate who hope a guilty verdict would motivate support for their efforts. Prosecutors argued that officers had a duty to protect Nichols, but the defense claimed that the officers were following police procedures. The jury found the former officers not guilty of second-degree murder and aggravated assault and kidnapping. Okay, the verdict comes at a pivotal moment for police reform efforts, as advocate worries an acquittal could stall the movement. And they were acquitted on some of the federal charges. Okay, so yes, they did get some of the federal charges did stick, but some of them they were acquitted on. And then, of course, for the state, they were considered not guilty. Okay, so I think this is absolutely outrageous. I don't even know how something like this could have happened. It should be noted that that these officers, they were convicted at the federal level for charges that include excessive force, resulting injury, deliberate indifference resulting in injury, conspiracy to witness tamper, and witness tampering. Okay. They were found guilty on that. Okay. And of course, they were acquitted on some other charges, but they haven't been sentenced yet for the federal charges. And of course, I'm sure they'll, you know, get sentenced unless something were to happen. I don't think, I've seen some comments online saying maybe President Trump would give them, would pardon them. I doubt. Really, Trump's letting go of black people left and right. He's doing everything he can not to let, the progression, us progress. Unless these men probably bow down to him, I doubt that he'll let them off the hook, okay, for anything. Um, and it says there were two additional officers also involved in this killing. Emmett Martin III and Desmond Mills Jr. Okay, they pled guilty for state and federal charges, so they were like, "We're guilty," like, you know. So I don't understand why these other three couldn't do the same. I don't understand why they felt they didn't have any guilt whatsoever. I don't. That's something that it's confusing to me. Like even if it wasn't, even if that man was yelling profanity at them, even if he even if he hit one of them in the face while they were fighting or whatever, he still died. There has to be some responsibility. Like, you have to feel some accountability. Like, there's no way you should feel like this man is dead and I have no guilt. There's just, to me, I don't understand that. I just don't understand it. Even if it was an accident, you can admit some accountability. Like, I didn't mean for this to happen. This just went out of control. Something that this is basically saying I'm not guilty. I'm not taking any accountability at all, which we could see with our eyes what happened. Okay. It says the article also said the attorney for the men expressed to jurors that if they were to get a conviction, then that would hurt law enforcement ability to pursue criminals and suspects in this violent city of Memphis. Okay, I've never been to Memphis, but apparently it's a violent city. Okay, so it must have worked because they got their not guilty verdict. Whatever they said to those jurors got their not guilty verdict. So the attorney for Nichols and his family stated that the verdict was a devastating miscarriage of justice. And I agree, okay? It's really hard to make sense of this. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It feels like chess pieces being moved around and stuff isn't making any natural sense to us. I'm sure this not guilty verdict means something to somebody else, to maybe their state, to maybe the police union, to whoever in there. It may mean something to them, but to us, the public, seeing this, it's not making any sense. Okay. Again, let's note this one part of the situation. Okay. Everyone involved in this situation is black. The police officers were black, and so was Tyree Nichols. He's also black. Okay. But apparently, from what I heard, the jury selection was white. I don't get that. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Okay. So this situation is not racial. It wasn't racial, at least not at first. Basically, it's like, black police officer beating up another black man, which, from what I've heard, that happens quite often in certain cities. Okay. It's just maybe people don't normally die from this and have it caught on camera. Okay. So this situation was not racial, but with the jury selection, it just made it more racial, because here you have a predominantly white jury found a group of black men not guilty for the murder of a black man, which everyone, almost everyone who is not a part of this or wasn't a family member of these people felt like these men were guilty. And from what we saw. Okay. Um, why wasn't the jury a little bit more diverse? You know, what made them decide to choose that jury? Um, and how did the jury see the situation and found them, after seeing this, found them not guilty of one thing? You know, there's all type of charges, as you can see from the stuff that they were, from the charges from their federal charges, you know. What's the verdict from their federal charges again? Let me see. Prosecutors, they were acquitted. Okay, so in their federal charges, they were convicted of excessive force resulting in injury. They were convicted of deliberate indifference resulting in injury. They were convicted of conspiracy to witness tamper and like they were convicted of all these stuff, right? In the state, at the state level, they're found not guilty of anything. Like, something isn't making sense. Like, something isn't adding up. Okay? Something's just not adding up. There, and I'm wondering too, it's like they get a predominantly white jury to do this. I wonder if they're somehow trying to kind of like reverse psychology, how we view cops and, you know, beating in the Black community, or cops, you know, crime involving cops in the Black community. I wonder if they're trying to make us see something different. Like, what if these cops were like, I'm trying to think of what would make sense in a situation like this. I don't even know. Okay. I mean, one thing's for sure. The system needs to be overhaul. They need to overhaul. I'm missing the H in there somewhere. I'm saying that overhaul the system, not overall, overhaul the system, right? Because the system is crazy if it's gonna find these men not guilty, right? Like, something is wrong all because they're cops, right? Like, something is wrong with that system. And so there has to be some accountability. People have to take accountability for their actions. And I know Tyree Nichols, I know he shouldn't have run from the cops. We all know that, okay? So, because he just looked like he was guilty of something. Who knows what? But it's like, it made him look like he was guilty of something. But that still didn't give them a right to, like, critically harm him, you know? He was unarmed. You know, it didn't give them a right to kill him, you know? So, whatever the case may be, police officers still need more training, clearly. And in a situation like this, something is just not right. Something just isn't right. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And I know in the federal case there is jury tampering. I wonder if this case there is jury tampering as well. You know, I mean, clearly something is off. I know the family of these men, they're very happy that, you know, for this sentence, and they're hoping maybe it will lower the sentencing. I mean, they're happy for this verdict, and they're hoping that it'll probably lower the sentencing of the federal case, like whenever sentencing is passed down. But dang, it's just a shame. It's a shame that they were not found guilty of those state charges. It's a shame, because this could have had a different type of effect, because I guess the article also mentioned they're trying to do police reform in the state, in all states, you know, so this could have had a different outcome. It could have definitely affected police reform in a different way. But now what change is going to be made? Like, these men just got away with it at the state level, basically, you know. But anywho, this is, you know, wrong on so many levels. Let me know what y'all think. You know, you can always post a comment. Let me know what you think, okay? Um, but to me, this is outrageous. It is outrageous, and it's not fair. It's not fair to Tyree Nichols and his family at all. At all. All right. So, okay. So next topic. We're going into another topic, but it's, it's still related. It's okay. So these topics are kind of sad. Okay. So, I found this topic interesting only because, and I don't really even have much to say on this. I do have something to say, but not even much to say. It, I, I just chose this topic because of my curiosity, honestly. Um, so I saw the title. I was scrolling through and I saw the title and I was like, what? It says, lawyers for men executed by firing squad in South Carolina say bullets mostly missed his heart. And I was like, firing squad? Executed by a firing squad? Like, what? Okay. I don't know about y'all, but I didn't even know this was going like a firing squad. So curious. I'm curious. So I decided to, read the article. And so this is from the AP News, okay? And so I'll give you a little tidbit from the article, just in case y'all are as curious as me, okay? So the article discusses the execution of Mikhail Mahdi, okay? Mahdi, a man who was put to death by firing squad in South Carolina. According to the pathologist hired by Mahdi's attorneys, the execution was botched, as the bullet mostly missed his heart, causing him to suffer in extreme pain for up to a minute before losing consciousness. The autopsy showed only 2 distinct wounds, and the pathologists believe the shooters missed the intended target area. In contrast, the autopsy on the first man killed in the firing squad in the state showed 3 distinct bullet wounds, and his heart was obliterated. Okay, the official autopsy report on Mahdi's execution has been called into question, and the lack of x-rays and close-up photos has made it difficult to independently verify the results. The article also mentioned that South Carolina allows condemned inmates to choose their method of execution, with some opting for the firing squad over lethal injection or electrocution. There are 26 people on death rows in South Carolina right now. Golly, sorry, my throat. So basically, from what they're saying, a properly conducted firing squad execution should takes about 15 seconds. Okay, so dead. 15 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 seconds. Okay, so a target is placed on the torso, so that way, the firing squad won't miss their intended target. So it's placed on the torso of the person, and then 3 shots, bam, bam, bam. 3 shots are fired in order to obliterate the heart, right? Bam, bam, bam. Okay? But they're stating that Mahdi's took 30 to 60 seconds to lose consciousness, which is 2 to 4 times longer than the expert predict that it should take for, the execution to happen. So 15 seconds is max. Okay, so they're saying that during that 60-second time frame, Mahdi would have suffered excruciating pain, such as his lungs trying to expand and get air, get oxygen. See, it's expanding and trying to get oxygen, and it's expanding, and now it's bursting through his ribs and sternum because it's moving and it's bursting through his ribs and sternum, causing excruciating pain. Okay, so they're saying that this is what happened, and they're saying this is not supposed to happen, but this, in his case, this is what happened. Okay. So Mahdi was cremated So they were not able to do an autopsy on him. Um, and of course, my feelings about the death sentence aside, because for me, the death sentence is one of those things I don't know particularly. I know particularly how I feel, but I don't know how I feel in terms of like, I want you to know for sure, because like I said before, there have been some instances where you hear people have been put to death and they shouldn't have been. So for me, you have to be like 100%, like 100% sure. There can't be a shadow of a doubt in your mind that this person has done it. There has to be like 100% facts, you know, um, of a heinous crime for this to happen. So, and in his case, it was, it was 100% factual, like witnesses and admission. There's witnesses and admission. So it was 100% fact in his case. So of course, it is what it is. But when there's nothing there, then the death penalty is kind of, it's just one of those things, okay? It's very iffy. So they were not able to do an autopsy on him because he was cremated. I'm not sure, like, and here's the thing with this article too, even though I'm going over it, I'm not sure why his lawyer, I'm not sure what his lawyer hoped to achieve by doing this, okay? I'm not sure why he's trying to push, them trying to figure out what happened to this man, like, with this, because it doesn't seem like anybody from the article, it doesn't seem like people are very interested in trying to figure this out. It's like, he died. Like, he got the death sentence and he died. No one is really trying to get to the bottom of it. Plus, he was cremated, so there's no way to really get to the bottom of this, so to speak. And also, the guy wasn't innocent. This man, Matty, he was not innocent. Okay. Apparently, he admitted to killing a police officer. It says an Orangeburg police safety officer, James Myers, in 2004. So he killed a police officer. He shot him like 8 times, right? And burned this man's body. He clearly was not, like, he didn't care how this man's heart, if his heart burst or not, or how it burst, or if he was in excruciating pain. He didn't give a dang. He may have shot this man 8 times and burned his body while he was still alive, because didn't 50 Cent got shot 50 times and he was still alive? Imagine if somebody had shot him just 8 times and burned his body while he was still alive. I'm not trying to imagine that. I'm just making a point. Like, who knows? This man might have burned this man alive. Who knows? Okay? But he burned this man's body and shot him 8 times. He also killed another person, okay? He killed like a gas station attendant. So this man is not, and he was convicted of burglary, 2nd-degree burglary. He was convicted of grand larceny. Like, this man ain't innocent by any means. So no one is really kind of sad and trying to figure out like what went wrong with the botch, the goal was death. And he achieved that. They achieved that, So no one is really too worried about that. The part that intrigued me is the firing squad. I was like, a firing squad? I didn't know they did a firing squad still as a type of execution for the death penalty. I had no idea. And I guess maybe different states are different in what they do. Because I guess in South Carolina, like you said, it can choose, like the article I mentioned, you can choose electrocution. You can choose electrocution. Who's choosing electrocution? I ain't choosing electrocution. I can imagine. I can imagine how much pain you're in being electrocuted. I'd assume you'd be in a lot of pain being electrocuted. No, I wouldn't choose electrocution. Firing squad, so you can choose electrocution, a firing shot, or lethal injection. I would just choose lethal injection, just die peacefully. Got my last meal and die peacefully. I would choose that. Firing squad sounds just horrible as well. Maybe he thought it would be cool to see like 3 men firing at him. The article didn't mention if they had 3 separate men. I wonder, because you could have a machine, like a firing squad could be like one of those machines that you twirl. Maybe. I don't know. But we'll just assume it's old-fashioned firing squad, right? 3 dudes. Golly, can you imagine? I mean, it just seems so barbaric and so like old school, like death by firing squad. Who would choose that? But I did not know. But South Carolina, y'all, do not do anything. Oh, don't get caught up in South Carolina, okay? But you do have a choice, okay? So you have a choice with how you want to die, how you want to die out here. But yeah, so that's what basically intrigued me to talk about this article. It wasn't about this horrible man that did horrible things and was put to death. Like I can't see myself spending time trying to figure out if it took him 60 seconds to die an excruciating death or not after he killed people, innocent people. I can't do that, especially when he admitted to it. But the firing squad part, whoa, like that is crazy. But anyways, my next topic that I'm gonna go into is it's more on the lighter side. I know I just did talked about 2 heavy, really heavy topics. But the next topic is kind of on the lighter side, okay? So it is about cannabis. So, and I saw this, and this one is interesting, and I hope y'all find it interesting. Excuse me. It says scientists discover a cannabis compound inside a totally different plant. And I was like, what did they discover that in? Okay. This article is from Science Alert that I'm going to get these points from. Okay. So scientists have discovered the compound cannabidiol CBD. Okay. Which is found in cannabis in a common Brazilian plant called Trema micrantha bloom. Trema micrantha bloom. Okay. This opens up new potential avenue to produce CBD, which is increasingly used to treat conditions like epilepsy, chronic pain, anxiety. The research found that the Trema plant contains CBD, but not the psychoactive compound THC. Okay, making it a legal alternative to using cannabis. Okay. So the researchers plan to scale up their study to identify the best method to extract CBD from Trema and analyze its effectiveness in patients. They have received a $104,000 grant from the Brazilian government to fund this research, which is expected to take at least 5 years to complete. Okay, so, that's kind of cool. That there's other options for this plant, this CBD, to be used, because I know it's become pretty popular now, okay? It's become pretty popular. Move over marijuana, okay? You got company, or there's a new sheriff in town. Well, maybe not, because it doesn't have THC, okay? But, for all the other benefits, okay? And the people of Brazil, maybe they've already been using this. Who knows? The people of Brazil, maybe, because different countries have their own remedies and stuff that they use to treat, all kind of stuff. They may not go to the doctor, but they have that little old lady that they go to that has all the herbal stuff, or, stuff that's been passed down from grandma, from auntie, from whoever. So, maybe they've already been using this plant for their own stuff. But of course, if it can't be proven like this works, so you need actual stuff that says it's been proven, like the research that goes behind it saying, yes, it's been proven, 5 out of 6 people have taken this and this was shown to be effective. You need that. It can't be just, take turmeric, it helps creaky bones, and, stuff like that, where it's it's just stuff that you've heard, and, it may work, it may not, but no one has ever actually tested it to try it out or something. It's not like that. So I guess this is why they're doing the research, so that they can be this 100% will work. Okay. And this is the exact same thing. This is, the exact same thing that is in, this is the CBD. This is the CBD, the same exact compound. Um, so yeah, I know in recent years there have been a lot of stuff now using, CBD. Um, they've been like candy that has CBD in it, oils that has CBD in it. I've seen a lot of stuff with CBD in it, so the landscape for that has definitely changed. And, more people have been using it, for stuff like I've seen people saying they've used it for cancer, more chronic ailments, some diseases. So, if they can find an alternative or different alternatives that they feel is legal in the US, then I say go for it, go for it. So that's kind of awesome. But that is it. That's all the topics I want to discuss today. Thank y'all for joining me, and come on back and watch again next time. Thank you.